Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're jumping right into the Bible for a topic we're calling Holy to the Lord, Finding Your Identity in Exodus 39. Look, I know a lot of you are gearing up for a brand new college semester right now, and with that comes a whole lot of pressure, a bunch of unknowns, and just new beginnings, right? Well, today we're opening up the Bible to find a rock-solid, unchanging identity you can literally carry with you every single day on campus. We're going to look at some incredible historical details and figure out exactly how they apply to your life right now.
Let's kick things off with our foundational text. Exodus 39 verse 30 says, "They made the plate, the sacred emblem, out of pure gold and engraved on it, like an engraving on a seal, holy to the Lord." Now, if you read through chapter 39, it is just packed with descriptions of these incredibly ornate, complex garments. But then there's this one piece that completely steals the spotlight, mostly because it's so simple, yet carries so much weight. It's a pure gold plate, designed to be worn right on the forehead. It's bold, it's undeniable, and honestly, it holds the key to understanding exactly who you are.
All right, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the context of the priesthood, move into as the Lord commanded, look at how Jesus carries your name, talk about being marked as God's possession, and finally, taking it to campus. So, we'll outline the big picture first, then we'll dive right into the details.
Okay, part 1, context of the priesthood, setting the historical stage. We really need to get the backdrop right before we talk about the garments themselves. So, the central figure here is the high priest. The high priest was the biblical figure appointed to bear the guilt of the people, so their offerings would be acceptable to the Lord. This was, frankly, a massive deal. He was the essential mediator. Without the high priest, people couldn't bring their offerings, and they definitely couldn't deal with their guilt before a holy God. Every single thread he wore was designed with this monumental task in mind.
Moving on to part 2. As the Lord commanded, looking at the step-by-step process in Exodus 39, let's see how these pieces actually came together.
Let me clearly explain the step-by-step process described in the document. First off, the artisans execute the specific instructions given by God. Second, and this is a really big one, they make sure it is done exactly as the Lord commanded. That exact phrase actually closes out every single section of this passage. It's just this relentless driving rhythm of obedience. Third, Moses inspects the final work to make sure it meets God's standard. And finally, because it was done faithfully, Moses blesses the people. The big takeaway? Excellent, faithful stewardship really matters when you're representing God.
All right, part 3, Jesus carries your name. Moving from Aaron's breastpiece to the great high priest. This is where we shift from the historical context into our main argument.
Let's compare and contrast these two priesthoods because it perfectly illustrates the whole point. Back in the day, Aaron wore a breastpiece bearing the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. He literally carried the names of the people into God's presence. But fast forward to today, and we have Jesus, our great high priest, who does this perfectly and eternally. Hebrews 7:25 says he always lives to intercede for us. So just like Aaron carried the tribes' names, Jesus is right now in the presence of the Father, carrying your name. He bears your name on his chest. How amazing is that?
Next up, part 4, marked as God's possession, focusing on the gold plate and your identity. Let's look at verses 30 through 43.
So that gold plate we talked about earlier, the text on it simply read, "Holy to the Lord." This wasn't just some pretty piece of jewelry. This was an identity statement deeply engraved like a seal, and it was worn visibly and publicly right on the forehead. Think about that for a second. It wasn't tucked away under a collar or hidden in a pocket. It was front and center, a totally public, undeniable mark declaring exactly who this person belonged to.
And this connects beautifully to the New Testament. 1 Peter 2 verse 9 tells us, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession." Now, resting on Reformed Calvinism theology, we know this holy identity isn't something you earn by pulling all-nighters or joining every club on campus. It's secured entirely by God's sovereign grace. Jesus entered the Holy of Holies for you. He took on your guilt. Because of that, those exact same words, "holy to the Lord," are basically engraved over your life. You're marked as His special possession purely because of His grace.
Which brings us to part 5, taking it to campus. Let's focus on the real-world implications of this data for college students this new semester.
So, let me summarize the key findings here and figure out how you actually live this out. First, you need to find daily confidence knowing Jesus carries your name. When you're overwhelmed, just remember He is advocating for you. Second, base your decisions on what God commands, not just what's easy or convenient. Think back to that relentless rhythm of obedience we talked about earlier. Third, practice the excellence in your classes and your life as a form of proper stewardship, not just vanity. And fourth, live visibly as a royal priest. That's not just a hat you wear at a Tuesday night ministry meeting, it is your 24/7 identity.
You know what's really fascinating here is the number 3. That gold plate had exactly 3 words on it, holy to the Lord. I want you to pause and really think about this. If a classmate or a professor had to describe your life on campus using exactly 3 words, just based on what they see you do every day, what would those 3 words be? Would they reflect a life that is completely given over to God?
And that brings us to the clear conclusion of our research today. Aaron's gold plate was public. It was undeniable. So my final question for you as you pack your bags and head to campus is this. How openly do you wear your identity as belonging to God? You are holy to the Lord. Not because you've got it all together, but because of what Jesus has already done for you. So walk onto that campus, not with arrogance, but with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who knows exactly who they belong to. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I really hope this truth anchors you for the entire semester.